every now and then we like to bring in Carl Tepper for a Tepper tantrum.
Happy Brexit Day.
Yes.
We're celebrating the Brexit.
You were fired up on Facebook. I saw that yesterday.
I am fired up about the Brexit. You know, I lived in England a few years. Jody, were you ever stationed in England with the Air Force?
No, I wasn't.
You never were?
I was in Texas the whole time.
Really, big Air Force presence in England. We were the last of the Cold War warriors training against the Soviets still back then. And then, you see, I've been back a few times for weddings. My roommate in college is English. I just always had a connection with the English people and the British from the island. And so, very interesting what happened over there. Wow. And a lot of it is reflecting. It's not just a Trump, Bernie type of thread through the politics. Here, it's happening in Europe too. We're seeing it a little bit of nationalism. England first, France first. Of course, UKIP started this a few years ago. That's the party that did not like the EU, and they kept getting elected to the EU. It was UKIP members of that party that kept getting elected to the MEUs, members of the MEPs, members of the European Parliament, is what they were. And so Nigel Farage and those guys, and I always keep up with that. I listen to a lot of British radio on the weekends, and listening a little bit early this morning when I was with the horses, and interesting to hear the banter, and even over there, it's almost all Trump all the time, and a lot of backlash on Obama.
With Obama when he went to London. And just said, hey, you know what? I mean, basically threatened him.
He managed to make both sides angry. Now the side that wanted to stay in the EU are angry at him for having that attitude and flipping the vote. And, of course, the side that wanted to leave anyway were annoyed at him already. And then, of course, his statement today was something about, we will persevere, or we will stick with the British, or, but it wasn't it was something about our special relationship.
This is what he said. He said, the people of the United Kingdom have spoken. We respect their decision. The special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom is enduring. United Kingdom's membership in NATO remains vital, cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy, security, economic policy.
Enduring, I think, was the interesting word. It wasn't special. It wasn't. The other U.S. presidents have never been shy about stating, Britain, Canada have always been our special neighbors, Israel in some ways. And now he just said enduring because Barack Obama seems to have been closer to the French and the Germans lately, and our American relationships have been closer to them than it has been with Great Britain. Yeah. And then of course Donald Trump was in, and we were talking about this during the break, Chad and I, that now Donald Trump happens to be in Scotland. I don't think it was an accident. Chad thinks it was. You think it was coincidence, but
of course he was going there to open up a club, which I think he should get out of his business right now, hand it over to the kids, let the kids or whoever else runs it, and he needs to focus 100% on running for president.
And normally I tend to agree. Now, of course,
he got lucky though.
Of course, Mitt Romney and John McCain and Barack Obama, they all make the European tour when they're the presidential nominee. They're trying to convince the world that they will have relationships with these other countries, particularly our European allies. And so he's over there supposedly for the golf club, but even over there, they're talking about Trump all the time. He was blatantly for the Brexit. Yeah. And so he's having a good week. I hate to say shootings will I'd rather find another way for a candidate to have a good week, but his stance on terrorism has been much better than Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, who can't seem to state radical Islamic terrorism, whereas Donald Trump has been very clear about these issues.
Well, and you look at, for Trump, and this is something, and we'll stay on the British thing here for just a little bit longer. But you look at what happened yesterday, and here are the parallel, because I see so much on social media. There are people arguing, yes, this has Trump and Hillary ties. No, it doesn't have Trump ties. And most of the people who say that this has no content or no ties in whatsoever with what's going on right now in the election are people who absolutely detest and can't stand Donald Trump. There are ties to what's going on. You look at the European Union, you look at what happened in the UK. I mentioned this earlier, Carl, that their identity was being taken away. and you look at what's going on here in the United States, immigration also a big issue over there. Immigration's a huge issue here. Donald Trump is talking about making America great again. Donald Trump's saying America first. We need to put ourselves first. We need to get our identity back. You go overseas, and what they were talking about there, those who are in favor of leaving the EU, we need to take our identity back. I mean, there are parallels between the two. It doesn't mean that Trump's going to win. I'm not going to say that what happened in the UK means that Donald Trump's going to win, but there are ties, there are parallels.
And then there's, now the Scottish are threatening to reintroduce the referendum to leave, and I'm not sure they'd be successful with the parallel of the EU and Scotland leaving. They just had that vote, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and it failed miserably. So it's a big question out there. There's certainly some unrest. We're feeling it. We're feeling that thread through the political systems of Europe and the United States, and I wonder how far this will take it.
Well, you're seeing it in a lot of different places. I don't know if you read the Transom or not, but it's a great newsletter that goes out I subscribe to. A lot of people subscribe to it. And it was talking about global. This is a hit on globalism, and you're seeing this when polls are done in individual countries. The French people are ready to bail out of the EU. You go through every single country, and they're ready to get out. They want to have their identities back, their personal identities back.
And the members of the European Parliament from Sweden and I think Denmark were on the radio as well this morning, being tough on Britain. We're going to be tough on them. We're not going to, we're going to pull all of our research dollars from Britain, who have disproportionately gotten more of it. So, these are some things I didn't realize, that these global warming, University of East Anglia with all that global warming research, that's going to leave Britain now. And there were some parallels of that where there were some callers and some commentators complaining about the extreme, extensive state of the the attitude of global warming in the European Union, and some of the extreme things they had done to lessen, these carbon footprints and things like that just make things more expensive for the populace. And that was a big part of a lot of people voting against the European Union. So there's obviously too much going on that you and I can cover in a half an hour, but there's a lot of unrest out there. People are tired of the elites, leading them, by the chin or the lower lip and telling them you have to believe in this, you have to do that. They're sick of it. They want their country back, and they want some self-determination.
Well, what was also interesting last night on this is that the vote is actually non-binding, and that if the lawmakers wanted to, they could say, no, we're not going to listen to it. I don't think they'll do that, because when you have 72% of your population turn out to vote, and the majority, 50, I think it was 51.8 or around 52% said we want out of the EU, I think they're going to have to listen to them.
And David Cameron had tried. He was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, everyone, and he the head of the Conservative Party, the ruling party right now, and he had tried several times to reform the European Union, and it just got met with they did not want to change, although they said they would. The Germans are really running it right now, and he's resigned. He met with the Queen this morning,
he's getting out in October, right?
He's getting out in October. He's going to have a few months of transition, which is unusual there. His party is going to have to choose a leader. Usually the change from 10 Downing Street is usually like 2 or 3 days. Yeah. So he's going to hang on for a while. I hadn't seen that happen before. Usually it's a very quick transition, but I don't want to get into the whole British. You have to call election every 5 years and see where you are. So I'm kind of curious to see if he's going to call an election to. There were voters, there were Labour Party and Conservatives and UKIP voters all over the place on this EU thing. Not the UKIP, but certainly the Conservatives and the Labour Party, which are the Republicans and Democrats here. And I'm also noticing a thread of Republicans and Democrats here in the United States upset with the establishment, the globalism status quo. So therefore you have the Bernie and the Donald Trumps. Yeah. And over there you had a very mixed Labor and Conservative Party vote for and against the EU.
Carl Tepper hanging out in studio. We'll take the break when we come back. Phone lines open, 770-5790, toll-free, 1-800-687-0790. We'll get into some Donald Trump news as well. I don't think Carl Tepper's going to be in favor of the dump Trump movement, but we'll see. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO, Chad Hasty. Carl Tepper, he's hanging out.
Make America great again, Chad.
You're not wearing your Trump hat, so it threw me off when you walked by. Is that Carl? I don't know if that's Carl
I didn't
or
make
not.
it to the house quick enough.
Okay. Let's head to the phones. Michael, you're on KFYO.
I wasn't sure what you all were talking about, but I wanted first we have to make Lubbock great. So anyhow, I was just letting everybody know to go to the city's website on the city secretary's part on the campaign finance reports, because it's quite instructive who is trying to buy District 2 in particular, and one to a little lesser degree, but about $11,000, and it's mostly the crony crowd that wants mega tax money put into their private projects downtown and
I'm shocked.
elsewhere. Well, I just was surprised at the amount and how deep they went into the...
Is there an election? What are you talking about, Michael?
I would think that even people east of the interstate would be very interested.
I do have to say, with Tech baseball and Brexit and all that, there is a city council election. Your last day to vote, everyone, is tomorrow. Tomorrow's election day.
Big time,
and everyone in Lubbock gets to vote. There's a municipal judge election,
right,
so go in.
I'm also supporting Jorge Hernandez, but definitely Jared Hall and Frank Gutierrez. You can tell who's wanting a puppet down there and who we ought to vote for. So
absolutely,
these
Michael.
are really important. This is a big percentage of what the council makeup will be. So it'll be the first time that we'll ever be able to have a conservative in either District 1 or District 2 ever. So go vote.
Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Carl, yesterday so we don't get into a lot of city politics, but you and I on the show, but you had the LGBT community approach the city council about doing new ordinances, and we've been seeing this stuff pop up around the state of Texas. Yeah. You think this goes anywhere in Lubbock?
I wouldn't take for granted that it doesn't. I certainly wouldn't. The makeup of the council is I don't. They're so new. We have practically a brand new city council. So, Karen Gibson and Jeff Griffith, and we have a new mayor. I'm not sure which way he'll. I don't want to say swing. I'm not sure which way Dan will go. And Steve Massengale. I suspect that they were real clear in campaigning. That's not what they want to concentrate on. They'd rather concentrate on potholes. I'm all for that, by the way. It's a great campaign line.
I think that this might be one of your first, along with the budget. One of your first. Hey, if you want to show the conservatism side, it's one of your first big tests. And not to allow, a bathroom bill like ordinance that we saw down in Houston that the city council said yes to and the people rejected overwhelmingly. If you want to show some people something, you stand up against the stuff.
And that's an interesting issue. I've spoken to some of the state legislators about the bathroom. It's statewide, it's local. Just how about I get to run my own business? And if I decide I don't want someone in a certain bathroom, or if I want to have unisex bathrooms, and by the way, unisex, if you have a small office or retail suite, you just have one bathroom anyway. Right. Okay. So we want to decide ourselves who we allow to use our restrooms. Now, if someone is unusual, I don't know, euphemism to use. If someone is unusual, let me make that call and determination myself. Now, if I don't want them using it, I think I already have the right to file criminal trespass warning, which means if they come on my property again, they can be arrested. So I have a lot of power already with my private business. So please don't mess with. I'm a property owner and manager, and that's our first line of defense. Let us do what we want with our own property. Now, when it comes to city and county and state property, I think we need to keep the men's room and the ladies' room the ladies' room, and if you want to make a provision or want to have someone standing outside or something for that tiny 0.001% of the population, maybe you can come up with some sort of ordinance for that.
Yeah. Visiting with Carl Tepper. Let's see. Let's get into the dump Trump stuff, because that's been brewing since last week, that there are some within the Republican Party, and I don't think it's a major group, but there are some within the Republican Party who want delegates to basically vote to rewrite the rules at the convention. You're going to the convention. You're a delegate.
I am a delegate this year.
So how would this work?
You know, I've been getting some feedback on this, and I've gotten some of the state media has been calling me, and I guess I haven't been paying attention to it as close as I should. There is a dump Trump movement. Each state has their rules on how their delegates act when they get there. So I think Texas does it right. The delegates are essentially committed through the first 2 rounds of voting. There are 3 Marco Rubio delegates coming out of Texas. If that candidate in the first round doesn't get 20% of the vote, then those delegates are free to decide. But essentially, the delegation chairman just reports our vote in Texas. So, and I can't imagine that the National Party would change the rules to dictate to all the rest of the 50 states and some of the territories, change your rules immediately, and we're just going to release everyone. And I think those folks would be purposely trying to melt down the Republican Party.
Is that what it would have to happen? Is not only a rules change at the convention, but you have to go state to state to state and get the parties to change their rules?
And that's what I don't know. And I'll get you Steve Monisteri's phone number, and you can interview him because he's actually in charge of that this year, our prior great state chairman.
Yeah.
And he's going to be able to give you a more legal, advice on what's going to happen there. I don't think the National Party can just relax or change the rules.
Yeah, from what I've heard, they got to go state to state, and they have to get the state party to change the rules first, and then it goes to the convention, and they have to get the delegates to change the rules.
And I just can't imagine, this thing's just a few weeks away, so I just can't imagine that every executive committee of every state would be called within these next 2 or 3 weeks to get that done. And also, some of these states probably have rules that these changes have to be made at their state conventions every other year.
Right.
Which is over for, I think, almost everyone.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine this is realistic or has any legs.
Well, and I think that we'll get into Donald Trump's week, but when you look at the speech that he gave this past week, hitting Hillary Clinton over and over again, it's the type of speech he needs to be giving, and I think that really put a lot of water on those fires that were out about Donald Trump. We'll talk about that when we come back with Carl Tepper. All right, Chad Hasty Show. Carl Tepper, the chairman.
We're in transition.
Longer?
Steve and I are in a weird transition where
How much longer are you chairman?
I think just another week or two,
okay.
And we have to schedule. There's a certain meeting called an organizational meeting we have to have and hand over the reins and all that stuff.
Okay, I didn't know how long the transition was going to be.
I hand him the power orb.
Ooh,
yes, the orb. He sits on his throne with his orb, and it shows that he has the power.
Very nice. Yeah. Okay, about a week left to be the chairman, Carl Tepper. In studio. Let's see, where we were talking about Donald Trump. I think that Donald Trump, he had a good week, and I think he got lucky going to Scotland when he did. I know you disagree, but you agree that he had a good week. And the hitting of Hillary Clinton, his speech that he gave, which he was using the teleprompter, and for his last few major speeches, he's used the teleprompter. When he goes to the rallies, he's off the teleprompter, which I think is the right move to make. Republicans all along have looked for that unifying figure. Well, I don't think Donald Trump yet has become that unifying figure. Hillary Clinton always has been. She unites the Republican Party because everyone hates Hillary Clinton in the Republican Party. We can't stand her. We know what she would do to this country. We know that she would be a disaster for the Second Amendment, for the military, for many, many things. And Donald Trump laid out the case against Hillary Clinton. I think if he keeps doing that, he walks away, he wins this thing easy.
Do you think the activism of the House Republicans nationally, the sit-in this week over the guns, realizing that we live in Lubbock, Texas, very gun-friendly, pro-gun,
sure.
I wonder if that helps him or hurts him. I remember when the state legislature the Democrats went to Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Right.
Some of you, boy, that's a few years ago. Some of you don't remember that. And then the state Senate went to Santa Fe, trying to block legislation and block business from being done. I think it hurt them. As a matter of fact, I think we finally took over the House and Senate after they had left, or we had just taken it over, and then we really got some great majorities out of that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how all of this militant sort of activism is going to affect the swing states, Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Well, you know, what I do is you look at history, and after the Sandy Hook massacre, and we're talking about children,
Terrible.
you know, just
that one, that's the
so
one
many,
that's the one that hit me hard. It didn't make me jump to gun control, but
No.
it was just terrible to think all those children got
But here's
gunned
the thing:
down.
you look at polls, and for the first couple of months after Sandy Hook, there was support for gun control, and then it flipped, and it dramatically flipped. I think we're going to see the same with this. I think that right now, across the U.S., you're going to see, we've already seen some polls where, gun control is favored by many Americans, but it's only by about 52%. It's not overwhelming gun control. I think by the time you get to November, it's going to flip the other way, and it's going to be the Democrats see this as a big issue for them now. I don't see it being a big election issue. I think terrorism will be a big election issue, but I don't think gun control. If gun control is the big issue, Republicans win, I think.
I don't know anymore, and I haven't seen any surveys lately. I guess I need to browse the NRA website to see, has hunting as a sport declined over the years, or is it on the increase, especially in Pennsylvania? It used to be a big deer country, Ohio hunting state deer country, and Florida not so much. So I'm curious to see if the American public, and it's hunting that's, even though we like the Second Amendment's there to protect ourselves from the government, it's also a lot of self-defense related to it. But really, it's the hunters who I believe in the shooting sports that has saved us. I wonder, I think there's more of a disconnect between the voters and a firearm possibly than ever before. So every time something like this happens, our influence wanes a little bit. And are the NRA memberships up or down? I guess I need to look up all these things.
Up.
And
it
is up. Good.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Good.
up. Yeah. And you see that. I just think that when you get closer to the election, and will there be another mass shooting? God forbid there is, but there probably will. Between now and November, there probably will be. But I think that for Americans, they are looking at, if we really are tying into what happened over in the UK, it's about the economy. It's about terrorism. It's about immigration. Guns, maybe fifth by November. But even then, I don't think anyone's going to go and vote for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump because she's for stricter gun control.
I agree with you. I think the guns will hit about fifth, and it still comes down to the economy.
Yeah,
which is related to the immigration, because people think their jobs are getting stolen by illegal immigrants, not to mention their safety. So.
You know what? And let's not, the whole globalism aspect that we talked about earlier, which Donald Trump has talked about, and that,
Bernie Sanders has talked about.
Sure, and that national pride and that argument, where is that going to rank? Is that going to rank higher than guns? I mean, it's possible. I don't see that, but it could be possible where that national pride, that anti-globalism attitude, that perks up maybe a lot higher than what we think it will.
And in a state like Ohio, which Donald Trump did not win, John Kasich won his home state, but
big economic issues though.
I do think he'll be able to revive those arguments about Carrier, the Carrier air conditioning group, leaving to Mexico,
Pennsylvania, coal. I mean, there are a lot of issues out there.
Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and states that have not been in play for Republicans for a while, which we were hoping Donald Trump would bring into play again. I've gotten a lot of mean-spirited tweets and Facebook posts about, he's throwing solidly red states in play, which is just completely factually incorrect. But
Arizona.
I don't think Arizona will be solidly red.
I think so.
But by the time we get to November.
Well, it's like the poll that came out that Democrats were championing here in Texas. Did you see this? Where Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's within 7 points of Donald Trump in Texas. One poll, by the way, showed this. And Texas Democrats started freaking out and saying, look, the state's winnable, and Hillary Clinton can win the state. And not only that, but voters are tired of corruption. Well, if you looked at how the questions were broken down, they didn't ask, are you tired of Republicans? Are you tired of conservatives? Because there are a lot of conservatives, I think, here in the state of Texas would say they're tired of the wishy-washy Republicans here in Texas.
2 weeks ago, the biggest misstep Donald Trump has had was talking about the Mexican judge.
Yeah.
He should have talked about the La Raza judge. Texas is a minority white state. It's actually a majority minority state.
Yeah.
It's the biggest Republican majority minority state. Whites are a minority here. We have Hispanics and Asians outnumber whites in Texas, but we've always been able to rely on at least 1/3 Hispanic votes, and lately it's been about 44% Hispanic voters. So having these, an increased participation by Hispanic voters in our elections has been pretty much a draw for Republicans in our statewide races and our national races, which has made Texas solidly red. Now, Donald Trump, berating, however it comes across, a Mexican judge was terrible optics. I'll be the first one to admit he did a terrible job on that.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we're back to where he needs to be. But there was some damage done there. So that, but I think the polls this next, so I think the polls next week are going to show that we've gotten through that.
He'll go up.
And I think he's going to rebound.
He'll go up.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to see some crazy swings in the polls this entire election season. You don't worry about the national polls. Look at the swing state polls where he has been close, even during this, the 12-point
and even during
Hillary
this
Clinton
terrible, 2 weeks ago, terrible week, he's still neck and neck. As a matter of fact, 40-40 in Ohio, which is unheard of because Ohio really was starting to swing very solidly blue to the Democrat side. So to see him competitive in Pennsylvania and Ohio, we're doing poorly in Florida again. So we need to start fixing Florida and get back on track there.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, if Donald Trump, if he stays on track like he did this week, he wins. If he goes off track like he did with his comments on the Mexican judge, he's going to lose the election. So that's what, with Paul Manafort, I think he's going to steer the ship the right way.
And the family is very smart. Ivanka is the trusted daughter, and she deserves to be. She seems incredibly intelligent, obviously beautiful. And you have the two sons who are extremely intelligent and are able to insert themselves. So I think Manafort can kind of get him in line through them, and I think it's working.
Final segment when we come back. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Carl Tepper hanging out. Just got a few more minutes.
Make America great again, Lubbock.
Talking a little Trump, a little Donald is what we're talking about. Yes.
Hey, everybody, look, let's do this.
The other concern, what?
Yeah. It's going to be fine. Okay?
See, now you sound like the Brits.
The campaign,
you sound like the Brits.
It's going to be fine. The campaign's coming together. Manafort's got it. The kids got him under control, but he still has that fiery, he's still that bombastic guy you loved during the primaries, and he's starting to raise money hand over fist.
That's what I was going to ask you.
The donors, the donor class is really starting to like him. As a matter of fact, I had some Trump haters during the primary call me over the last few weeks and state about how great he's doing with the grassroots in New Mexico, which New Mexico is a good indicator of where some of these swing states are going. And so how excited they are about him. And, they're kind of buying into it and having some fun with it. Look, we know he's flawed. We knew he was flawed. We weren't trying to vote for the perfect candidate during the primaries. We had lots of perfect candidates, and they always disappoint you. We know the guy is flawed, okay? We embrace the flaws because the flaws reflect us. When he talks and says these bombastic things, it's like he's on a construction site. He's talking to the guys. That's where he grew up, on a construction site, and he talks like that. But it connects. I promise you political class out there who hate my guts, okay?
Are people still mad at you, Carl?
I think we have a few very annoyed people out there, but I promise you, we're pulling it together. It's going to be okay. He's going to beat her, and it's really going to annoy you that he's going to beat her. I am annoyed with some of the candidates who were around during the primary who are doing everything they can to undermine and not endorse or whatever, or really cruddy things they're saying about this candidate because they want him to lose so they could be the candidate in 4 years.
Yeah.
And that is bad for the country. I mean, talk about selfish and self-righteous, and that's why I didn't vote for him in the primary, because I knew they were that way, and now they're showing their true colors.
Well, and, it is you've got Marco Rubio, who's running again for the Senate, which I think is a good thing.
I do too.
Cruz, obviously he's heading back, and he'll do his thing. But the media doesn't help, because you already have the talk of, okay, well, they're both going to run in 2020.
Yeah, they're already setting.
It's already a done deal that Trump is going to lose. Which I don't think he's going to. I think that if he continues down the right path, he's going to defeat Hillary. But it's I don't have a problem necessarily with folks on endorsing. I don't think Trump cares about that. I think it might even be better for Trump if you don't have the full-fledged endorsement of Paul Ryan, you don't have the full-fledged endorsement of some of these other Republicans, because, again, you want to be – if you take a look at all of these who were supposed to be getting all the endorsements, they all lost. They all lost to Trump. And so if you're Donald Trump, maybe you just say, don't worry about your endorsement. Just, as he brought up earlier last week, just shut up, don't say anything.
Ted Cruz
Let me do what I'm going to do.
Ted Cruz had a campaign post-mortem with his staff about, what do we do next time? I mean, I know this is where people are going to be mad at me again, just when I'm starting to rebound a little bit, Chad, but how obnoxious is that? I mean, the guy's already setting himself up, keeping his donor base together without wanting at all for a Republican to have a chance. All these, I think they're weak arguments, but these Supreme Court arguments and things like that, they don't even want to try. It's about themselves. And by the way, we still haven't seen Ted Cruz in West Texas since you think he would have done a little tour of the state, shore up some support. He was kept below 50% in every county in Texas, which if you're the hometown guy, that's not good. He was kept below 50% in every county in Texas, which I think makes him vulnerable for a primary. People think I'm crazy. I don't think I am.
I think you're a little crazy.
And I'm not. That means he did not crest past 50% in a Republican primary anywhere. He would have been thrown into a runoff if it had been his seat for a primary. I think he needs to be real careful. I think he needs to get to West Texas, talk to our farmers, talk to the oil people, and maybe, do your job for at least a few weeks before hitting the campaign trail again.
I brought this up when there was already talk of him running again. He needs to be a senator. He needs to be the U.S. Senator from Texas.
He hates being a senator, and I guess he's supposed to be a constitutional genius, but I guess no one told him that the U.S. Senate is a legislative body. You might have to work with someone. So they keep telling me what a genius he is constitutionally, but I haven't seen it yet. He hasn't learned to work with anyone. I don't think he's passed any bills of any significance. See,
now you're going to get people mad at you again.
I know. I enjoy it. I revel in it.
You're going to get people upset.
Look, guys, I certainly appreciate Ted Cruz's attitude about government, but again, he needs to do his job as a U.S. Senator, which might require some compromise every once in a while, and it might require you to come to West Texas and talk to the folks, even if they have some differing opinion. They're going to be nice to you and tell you, and then they're going to do their photo ops, and you get out of here.
Are they going to be nice, Carl? I've seen some of the comments on your Facebook page.
No, I've never said I don't. No, take that back.
Not you. The people commenting on your Facebook page.
Oh yeah, no, that's okay.
I've seen.
I could be your whipping board if you need one, and feel free to get on there and give me a hard time. It's okay if you need to vent. The Facebook page is Carl Tepper. I actually don't friend everyone because I've never had a public Facebook page, so I need to have one. Or
if you're wearing a Dump Trump shirt, he will not approve you on his Facebook page.
Yeah, if I don't have a lot of mutual friends, I usually don't approve you. But I do have a Twitter account. Get on Twitter. I get a hard time. Some guy in New Jersey really gives me a hard time a lot. The Never Trump crowd out of New Jersey somehow found my Twitter.
Are you sure it wasn't Eric Erickson?
No, I'm not sure. Not sure at all. So.
Carl, thanks for hanging out, man.
It's been great, Chad.
Always fun to have you on. Carl's also going to be filling in for me a little bit in the end of July when heading to Vegas.
We apologize in advance, everyone.
Yes, absolutely.